most famous artist of the 19th century, Vincent van Gogh, left behind an incredible array of beautiful and mysterious paintings, and he also left behind the mystery of his lifelong illness.
In recent years, Van Gogh's diagnosis of epilepsy has been changed to Meniere's disease. And unfortunately, many people even today are still being misdiagnosed with this debilitating disorder.
This is how any one of us might perceive a routine activity. For someone with Meniere's disease, simple activities become sickening bouts with dizziness, nausea, ringing in the ears, and hearing loss. Vincent van Gogh was a creative genius, yet we often associate his incredible talent with his tormented life. Many thought him mad. Doctors believed that he was an epileptic. Van Gogh suffered from dizziness and nausea so profound that he once wrote, quote, "It so sickened me to move that nothing would have pleased me more than to have never woken again," end quote. Historians speculate that Van Gogh may have cut off his own ear to rid himself of the constant sickening ringing in his head. Plagued with these symptoms for months, they would suddenly disappear, only to reappear months later. Unable to cope, Van Gogh eventually committed himself to an asylum, no longer able to live on his own. Towards the end of his life, Van Gogh became despondent over his apparently hopeless, incurable illness. At the age of 37, he committed suicide. More than 200,000 Coloradans live with these often disabling symptoms every day, but it can be treated, often successfully.
Now, you may wonder, do many people actually suffer from the daily trauma of Meniere's symptoms? And if so, how are they treated? Well, these are some questions that we had, and for some answers, we are turning today to our guest, Dr. Ike Hoffman-Ehrenberg, who is the director of the International Meniere's Disease Research Institute, which is, in fact, here in Denver. And right. I think we should begin by correcting one factual error regarding Van Gogh. He actually encountered the symptoms, you say,
in the last 3 years of his life. It was not a lifelong illness.
Ah, okay. Well, I guess, how do you recognize that you may be experiencing symptoms of this?
Well, the most characteristic symptom is the vertigo. This is a violent sensation of rotation, a type of dizziness. It's a very specific type of dizziness where there's a hallucination of motion or rotation.
And you're saying that there are often problems with diagnosing it, that it frequently is misdiagnosed?
Well, the vertigo occurs with hearing loss or in the early stages, and the hearing loss fluctuates and can go back to normal. And also in the syndrome is tinnitus, ear noises, ringing, and there's also pressure. And the problem with the misdiagnosis, which can still occur today, happened to Vincent van Gogh. In the 1880s, he had these violent attacks of vertigo and was symptom-free in between. And at that time, anything that happened violently like that, that seemed to be coming from the brain, was diagnosed as epilepsy
sure.
or a seizure. And he very clearly describes in the letters that he wrote to his brother, sister, family, and friends, little bits and pieces about his medical illness. And he describes them as, in French, la vertige, or vertigo. And the descriptions are pretty good. And he was a very articulate writer as well as a magnificent painter.
Is it still totally incapacitating as it was to Van Gogh?
Well, people have this. One of the things that makes it very complex is that it can change. Sometimes a person has a violent attack that lasts several hours with nausea and vomiting, and they don't know when this is going to occur, and then the next attack may be 10 or 15 minutes, and they may have a little nausea but no vomiting, and sometimes they're not even aware of mild hearing losses, which occur during the attack and may subside. It's after these continue to recur that they get a more permanent and persistent type of hearing loss.
Do you have a number in the population, for instance, 1 out of 10,000?
Well, we did a study on the population in Sweden in 1973 because they have such good statistics, and used that as a basis to extrapolate to the United States. And it was about 2.5 to 7 million Americans at that time, which translates roughly to a couple 100,000 people in Colorado.
Good grief.
The reason people don't know it's so common is people don't die from this, so the statistics aren't as accurate. And some people may suffer only in the long term the hearing effects or some hearing loss, or they may have some chronic imbalance when they get this in both ears and lose balance function.
For heaven's sakes. We should mention that there is an update on the diagnosis and treatment of this disease tonight, 7 to 9 p.m. at the Radisson Hotel. That's I-25 in Arapahoe Road. And the doctor will be there, as well as, who is your friend that you brought with you?
Oh, Professor W.P.R. Gibson. He's the professor and chairman of the ENT department at the University of Sydney in Australia. He's a world's expert. He's here for some other meetings that the International Meniere's Disease Research Institute is putting on, and he's agreed to do this public forum for the Colorado Meniere's Disease Support Group tonight.
Great. Doctor, thank you very much for your time today.
Pleasure.
Linda.